Welcome to the Van Dusen Urban Leadership Forum. I'm Katie Locker. I'm the program director here in Detroit for the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. I'm pleased to be here tonight to welcome artist and urban planner and many other things, Theaster Gates. Knight Foundation has been partnering with Theaster and the University of Chicago to explore a community development model that supports arts and culture to help transform communities. And tonight we're here hosted by the Van Dusen Urban Leadership Forum. The forum is named for the late Richard C. Van Dusen. Mr. Van Dusen had a lifetime concern for and commitment to urban communities, particularly metropolitan Detroit. The Van Dusen Urban Leadership Forum brings together national experts with existing and emerging local leadership to demonstrate new ways of thinking, sharing, and problem solving, to inspire individuals towards action, and to provoke intergenerational knowledge transfer by intentionally driving diverse audiences into the same room. Theaster Gates' work truly embodies these ideals. I asked Carol Coletta, who is my vice president at the Knight Foundation and who has known Theaster a long time, what I should say to introduce him. And she sent me the following. She sent a quote. She said, "Who has the right to amazing culture, the highest imagined possibilities of culture?" That's the question Theaster keeps asking himself. He has answered with a series of projects that are transforming a challenged neighborhood on Chicago's South Side. It began with the remaking of a single house into a cultural gathering space, to his latest creation that opened last weekend, Stony Island Arts Bank. Theaster and his team members extend across multiple entities: his artistic studio, the University of Chicago, his nonprofit Rebuild Foundation, and the Knight-supported Place Lab. As Theaster describes it, culture is the thing that helps to ignite. A hallmark of the Van Dusen Forum is engaging the community and applying the expertise of our speakers right here in Detroit. So tonight, after Theaster finishes some brief remarks, he will open up the conversation with three local panelists: Lauren Hood, Eric Howard, and Bucky Willis. Then tomorrow, community members, many of whom are here tonight, will participate in a visioning walk and workshop with Theaster and the Detroit Collaborative Design Center, generating neighborhood-driven ideas to inform the focus areas of the newly formed Live 6 Alliance. So the conversation extends well beyond this evening's remarks. So I'm going to invite Theaster to join us, and I tell you all to prepare yourself. He never fails to entertain, to inform, and to provoke.
Cities tear down buildings all the time, and buildings are torn down for similar reasons. They're torn down because something starts to happen in the building that seems like a nuisance to a neighborhood. Something happens that kind of exaggerates deviance in a community. It exaggerates deviance. Right? Things start to happen in the building, and sometimes the easiest thing to do is to not treat the addiction, not worry about the person, just tear the building down. The city of Chicago was preparing to tear down 13 buildings that were in dire need of repair and had not made it to the historic registered list. This was one of them, and we were able to arrest its demolition. What does it mean for an artist to have a big idea about a building and try to enact that big idea when there's a set of circumstances outside of the artist's control, like you don't own the building, you don't have enough money to pay for the rehab of the building. You don't exactly know who the partners would be to help you do that, but you have this gut desire to do something big or something important or something that might have impact in a place, right? And so that's where I was. I had done some small projects. I knew that this building, being 17,000 square feet, was going to be bigger than I could afford to do, but that it was the first building that was on a main street, Stony Island. It was like a really amazing thoroughfare. There were no cultural centers in the neighborhood, and I thought, like, this is the right spot. And so, the way that we got it started was that the mayor was coming to visit me. We were just meeting for the first time, and he asked me, well, we like what you're doing. Is there anything else we can do? And I said, well, yeah, you're about to tear down this bank. That's how it started. He halted the demolition with his Department of Buildings, and then I had to have a series of conversations with the Department of Buildings about whether or not I really had the capacity to restore this building. And they were asking me a financial question and a kind of acumen question. Do I know how to build buildings, and who's gonna pay for it? How do these things happen, right? So the city said, we're not gonna give you the title. That has to go through a city council process. We can give you permission to have access, limited access to the building, but you'll have to insure the building. So a building that had been in perfect shape up till like the middle 90s, over the next 10 years, had rapid decay as a result of being exposed to the elements and the frost thaw that happens in Chicago. Does everything require money? No. We could do some, community gardens. We could make a swing on a really nice tree in an empty lot. But what do you do with these big projects? What do you do when parts of your neighborhood are constantly being erased? And who should think with you about what happens to be the last standing terracotta building of what may have been 30 really beautiful terracotta buildings at one point in Stony Island's history? And so it's that combination of grassroots activity, right? The fact that Rebuild Foundation had been doing small projects over the last 7, 8 years, that we had been engaged with our neighbors at coffee, tea, and chat, making sure that weekly and bi-weekly they knew what was happening on the block. That Black Cinema House had been happening, where we were showing films made by people of color or about people of color for the last 3 or 4 years, and that thing was packed out. That Black Artist Retreat was this thing that happened every year that brought 150 artists to the city so that they could talk about things that Black artists need to talk about, that there was a kind of inner circle of folk that were aggregating, that were believers in this work and believers in each other, and that work didn't require a lot of money. And if I were to try to talk about like what would a beautiful artwork look like for me, it would probably be the creation of a vessel like this bank building, and that people would be willing to wait, that this block, which has had no action for the last 40 years, would kind of wake up, and the entire city would pay homage to it. It's like, that's just better than any painting I could make. Thank you. That's my Chicago story, right? That I didn't tell all the stories of the 8 or 9 years of struggling to realize a first project. And as I was saying to Brother Mike outside, just getting the first project done, getting from 0 to the first house took 10 years. From the first house to the second took 3, Then there was an expediting. But like those first projects were really hard. And I thought I'd ask you guys a little bit about your projects and what you're working on.
So the making of this organization that I'm running was in the process for 2 years. And
What's it called?
Live 6, for those that don't know. So it's a community development organization doing work on Livernois 6 Mile Corridor. So I'm just 5 weeks into it. But like you were saying, you went to the bank and you're like, I would like this investment. And they're like, what's it going to be? So I feel like people are asking me, so what is this organization going to be? But I would like some time. Like at what point who do I have to be, or how do I have to represent it so that I can have some time to work with people to figure out what it should be, instead of, I feel a little bit of institutional pressure putting out there like what it is. I want to work with people and determine what it is, and say, instead of just saying what we think it should be right now.
So for us, similarly, what you were talking about things need to happen over time. I forget how you worded it, but you said it earlier at lunch, you said it in your presentation, and you said it when we sat down. For us, that really rings true at the Alley Project in Southwest Detroit because, like you were saying, I think at times participatory design can be a tough sell, especially when you're trying to get somebody to invest in your project or invest in your idea. I think early we ran into, I have to blame it on us. Like, you know, like you were saying, we paint these broad strokes. We say, this is what's happening over there, this is what's happening over there. We would like to do this, but we're not sure about this. We had to come up with what it really was, and what we realized it really was a participatory design project. When we were able to start talking about it in those terms, it made sense instead of us just not having answers to questions that we were being asked. And so, once we figured out how to frame what a participatory design process is, I think that our project became more fundable, but even beyond being fundable, and probably more important, it became something that people wanted to invest in.
So mine was it was a gradual process. At first it was me doing like little guerrilla art projects in the neighborhood, and I tried to do it secretly, like good guerrilla art should be, but everybody would see me and wave and say, hey, what are you doing? And then it grew, it grew from just doing that to realizing, okay, I gotta get some neighbors involved, I can't do this by myself, and I don't wanna do this by myself. And then, so I happened to go to a great school, and I happened to be an intern at a really great design center, the Detroit Collaborative Design Center. And woo, yay! And then, but I pitched the Bleeding Heart design idea to them, and it was like, it had only been in my head for maybe a year. And then I pitched it to them after doing some small projects. We went from just me being a crazy kid doing guerrilla art in the middle of the day and people pointing at me. I am still that. And then to just having a little bit, like more of like, I guess some beams to hold up the roof, and then we're just slowly building this thing to be stronger. So this is like a really good starting point for us. I think it kind of like took us up a few notches.
When I was young, my mom would say people should know you by your works, and so I've just tried to demonstrate the things that I believe in through what I do.